Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. I am Dank P.H.A.R.T, the pirate poet. P.H.A.R.T is P-H-A.R.T, and is an acronym for Pretty Hot and Reasonably Talented. I am here doing some interview series for my project, The Poem, Peace on Earth Movement, the Peaceful Mother Lover Challenge, where you perform my hit poem, Seed Bomb of Love, by drawing a peace sign on the earth, thus creating peace on earth. I am doing these interview series to kind of take the small, seems almost impractical idea of peace on earth through drawing a peace sign on the earth. But that is just an energetic seed of whatever you feel called to give into our planet and energetically. But how to go from that to the actual practical reality of what we could do to actually create a thriving planetary civilization of many nations, because we're always going to be many nations. Today, I am here with my dear friend, Christinia Eala, who is also the head or founder of an organization called Teoshe that is a nonprofit that does sustainable housing and permaculture education upon Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Today we are going to hear her tell us the story of Creator and its covenant with the four nations. Thank you so much for being here with me, Christinia. Yeah, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Um, well, I'll tell you, um, I was up at Standing Rock for about 4 months, and during one of my trips home to Colorado to get more supplies, um, I was pulling out of Rosebud Camp, and I just happened to look back, yeah, back, and I looked and I got the chills. I got the chills, like it's like every hair on my body stood up and my heart was filled with, it was just like this feeling of love just engulfed me. And I, I started crying because I was happy to see the vision that I saw. And because it was all nations of people that were there protecting the Earth Mother. And that's the way it's always been meant to be. So after my experience up there, I came home and I wrote this. I want to reshare this post until everyone knows that in the beginning time, Mitakoye Oyasin was the great truth. We were all indigenous. Now we join together again to stand up to those who would destroy all that is vital to the well-being of our Maka Akan. Stand tall. Niniwichoni. So and then I said, as I listened to the October 24th morning update by Myron Dewey, I thought of a story that I have found myself retelling lately. And now I want to retell it every chance I get because I think I think everybody needs to hear it, and I think they need to absorb it into their spirit so that so that they can envision how we are all related. So, um, I heard this story a long, long time ago. I don't even remember the first time I heard it or where I heard it, but this is the story. So, in the beginning times, human beings were put here on the Earth Mother, and we were all indigenous. The creator of all that is came one day and called a gathering. He said, um, he called the gathering of all the nations. And it was said that on that day, sacred covenants were made with the human beings. And so the word got out, and there was representatives and as many people of all nations gathered together as possible. And he said, excuse me, the creator said, look around you, see what I have given you. I have given you everything that you need to lead a good life on this planet called Earth. If you have an illness, look around, there's medicines for any illness that you could have. There's food, there's seeds, there's uh, plenty of food in the waters, on the earth, in the sky. And so he went on like that, showing people what their blessings were that the Creator had given to them. He said, now, he said, I gave this to you, to all of you, and so you all work together to take care of it. And he said, but I'm here. I called this gathering because I have sacred covenants that I want to make with each nation. And he said, so the black nation to the west, your covenant with me will be to always protect the water, take care of it. If you do this, you will always have plenty of everything that you need. Water is the life of the earth, the lifeline, the blood of the earth. So you take care of that. And he said, and use it. It's good medicine, always good medicine. And, in when I think about this story, I did a lot of research into all of this, and I found that these stories are true. I'm always amazed. So in studying stories of the Black nations medicine people, I found that water is always the word that jumps out that is so important. So I love this. I love this story. Anyway, so the people to the north, the red people, the Creator looked at them and he said, and your covenant with me is to be the caretakers of the earth, be the keepers of the earth. Always take care of her, treat her well. Don't ever um, diminish her gifts to you. Use them, use them sparingly. Take what you need, leave some for other people. Some, and then the next year everything will grow back again. And to the people of the east, the yellow nation, he said, my covenant with you is to take care of the air. You have to make sure that there's no pollution in the air, so that everything, we all need the air to breathe, like we all need the earth to survive, like we all need the water because we come from the water. Our body is made up of water. Our brains have more water in them than I think the rest of our body. I mean, so he said, so you take care of the air. And I noticed that, it's the yellow nation that brought us the yogic breathing and different powers like that. And anyway, and then to the white nation, he looked at them and he said, my covenant with you will be for you to take care of the sacred fire, the white nation to the south. Take care of the sacred fire. Use it always in a good way, and um, it will help you in many, many ways. So everybody looked around and they said, okay, that sounds pretty easy to do. Yes, we'll do that. We'll take care of that. And so they all went back to their homelands, and everything was going wonderfully. And then one day, um, they noticed that one of the nations was like not taking their covenant as seriously as they could. So, like their covenant with the Creator, they all went and they told that nation, "We see that you're not using that and following the covenant. You have to follow the covenant that we made with the Creator, so the the world doesn't get out of balance." So they helped each other that way. They worked together always. And then one day it happened that they noticed that the white nation was using the fire in a way that was not ascribed to them by the Creator. So they went and they were all gathered to go talk to the white nation. And when they looked, they thought, well, that's pretty creative. That doesn't seem so bad. Oh, look, we can use this, in our nations to help us. So they just said, you need to be a little bit more careful. That's a good idea, but be careful with that. Then they all went back to their homelands. They started using the fire in the way that they saw the white nation use it. And so because they decided to be lax with that one element, um, things started getting a little bit out of hand. They started saying, well, if we can tweak that, let's tweak this. And so it went. And then, we all know what happened. Fire led to the making of horseshoes, which were, from what I've been told by the white nation, was one of the first weapons that was used in war. They made shoes for their horses, which could get them further when chasing people away out of their land, but they also used them to rear up and hurt people with. And the swords were made and the weapons were made. And then atomic energy and different things like that was made. And it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. And and because the other nations saw this, they said, oh my goodness, if they have those weapons and they come to attack us, well, we need to have weapons too. So that's what they did. But then, of course, then you have all of the waste product from those things, and they just callously threw it into the water or buried it in the earth. And they're
Polluting to
so
the sky.
and polluting the sky from the
This is
smoke from a fire isn't so necessarily so dangerous. It's the chemicals from these other elements
yeah,
that
and also probably the mass production of it, though.
absolutely, and that's where we're at today. And so the world got greatly out of balance. That was the beginning. And now we can see the condition that the earth is in. And excuse me, we can see the condition that the earth is in, and we're all frightened.
Yes.
We've been frightened for a long time. And we don't know what to do now because everything is such a mess, you know. But when I looked back and saw that huge camp of thousands of people from all nations, that's what brought that emotion onto me, and I thought, in all of the insanity of the world leaders today who want nothing but power, they're not going to be able to stop the tidal wave that's coming. The tidal wave of the indigenous people who are standing up. They're starting to stand up. So when I think about it, when I think about all of those people of all nations, they're calling what's happening today a great awakening. And it's so exciting because the awakening is people are becoming more and more aware of their indigeneity. I've had
Mm-hmm.
people tell me, I think I was Indian and Native American in another life. I've got all these feelings. I don't quite understand them. And I like to tell them, I think you're having an indigenous awakening. I think you're beginning to remember who your ancestors were. I like to say, we sing our songs in the lodge and in ceremony for the earth. And
Which
I
nation
say,
is that you're member of?
Lakota.
So,
I'm Sichango Lakota from the Rosebud Reservation originally.
yeah, totally. Showing that
So,
for the audience.
oh yeah, okay. So, well, yeah, see, I'm really old. Matt, you shouldn't have said that. You made me lose my train of thought.
Oh my
But
God.
anyway, so I like to tell people that I know that they're having an indigenous awakening and they need to find their way back to their beginnings, their beginning time. Because if we're all singing songs for the earth, who is singing the songs for the air? Who's singing songs for the fire? Who's singing songs for the water? You see, those ceremonies in those regions of the earth, they have ceremonies because they know everybody knew their original teachings. Now, I think people want to go back to their original teachings so that we can find that balance. And if we come together and we help each other the way the Creator said that we need to, then we can bring balance back to this planet. We can say, well, look what's happening now. This just popped into my head with all the pollution. See what's happening, all the beautiful things that are happening. The dolphins and the swans are in the Venice Canal in Italy. People are able to see the Himalayan mountaintops for the first time. China, you can see China from the satellites in space because the pollution is dissipating. The earth is regenerating. I love it. They told us in our teachings that we, the earth doesn't need us. We need her. We need the earth. We need all the gifts that the Creator meant for us to have to survive. Um, and so I love it that this awakening is happening. I love it that the earth is beginning to cleanse herself,
Mm-hmm.
to shake us off like fleas on a dog, and to reteach us. It's an awakening and it's a remembering.
Yeah, it's
I
crucial.
love
It's the only, I
yeah.
believe it's the only thing that will, I don't want to use the word save, but will, because that's just a huge, this, within this crazy, beautiful, multidimensional reality, to be so caught. Yes, we should honor life and everything, but like you're saying, like the earth is doing its thing and not being super, like, we'll shake us off like fleas, but like honoring the true nature of this and the fact that it is transitory and not being so like, oh man, I'm gonna like fight to like never be grow old and all of this. I think that's part of the mix up and the relearning that we need to do is embrace the transitionary aspects of this life and the organic realness of this. And like, I don't want to be a robot.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it's so important. And with the indigenous, yeah, and like getting back to our stories and us really, I was just, as you were talking about fire and the white nation fire, I was thinking back to all of these myths within white culture that have to do with being gifted fire and how that turns into all of the chaos. You know, there's Prometheus and the gods come down and get Prometheus fire, and then all of a sudden, like things start like all unfolding and like boom, next thing you know, like we have this mad world and, you know, Pandora with all the other things that come out of that. And then also even within the Bible, you know, when they get kicked out of the garden, they get like this, there's this flaming sword that is also this fire energy that is leading to all of this. And so like it's there embedded in our stories and our mythos and the mythos that have been hijacked our initial learning and teachings. And I think that is where that root is. And how do we get grounded as European descendants? I've got my Celtic. This is a Celtic knot right
Oh,
here
I love those.
that my
Yeah.
mother bought me. She is a devout Roman Catholic, but still is very much in tune with her indigenous self without her even she kind of know it, but she wouldn't quite describe it as that because she is, you know, devout Roman Catholic.
Absolutely. And you know what I've heard from um, in history is that the Irish people, the Irish Catholic people in Ireland, still hang on to the goddess. You
Oh yeah.
know, and I love it. I love that. But so in that remembering that you're having, and love it that you that reaffirms, you know, what I've been talking about, you know, listening to the Black Nation talk about how important water, I mean, and their emphasis is really on water, you know. We all share that knowledge of what the power is in each of those, but each one of us have those covenants. And so I think that's why it's such a large part of the telling of the story for in each culture. But I was going to say that when each nation says, okay, well, you know, we didn't, none of us did this, made the made the world the condition it's in today by ourselves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're all responsible for the pollution and the things that are going on. So when we have this great awakening, um, and we start to find our way back to our individual spiritual ways, I think that's when we find our center. Because right now, so many people are feeling chaos within themselves. But when we find that center, then what do they say? Out of chaos comes order. And so then I think then our chakras get aligned and everything feels right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I like it, you know, that feeling of wholeness. And the wholeness is when we're all together. You know, we're whole with each other
Mm-hmm.
because the four nations coming together makes us whole.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
The
that.
medicine wheel coming back together, being
Yes.
mended.
Yep. So the hoop is becoming mended. It
Yes.
sure is.
Yes. That's it. So yeah, and it's, you know, all unfolding, and I really have great faith in all of us that we're going to come through all of this, and all of the happenings are all like, you know, from division between the nations and people within communities and all of that is just representative of our disconnect from our home, which is our planet. And as we get back in touch with our planet and reorganize and stuff in a way that allows us to all thrive collectively, um, without throwing everything away. You know, it's like, how do we create the tomorrow that recognizes that we are here and not, and everything that's happened, you know, it's not like cleaning the slate and just like tearing it all down. I think it's a way of we come together and integrate all of this together, and we can come together as, I mean, we're now more connected on a global community, so now we can even like have these, all of these nations representative of like right here, like in various different formats. And so we can actually have these communications, and perhaps that's why we had to create these communications. Perhaps that's why Spirit like brought them through to us, so that we could be like, oh wait, actually, we're not all like disconnected. Actually, we are connected, and it's, I think all of it is representative of what's going on, and you know, and it's all shifting. And I think what a part of what's happened is our ability to create has greatly out outpaced our internal cultivation, and so now
Mhm.
we're having to like catch up on our inner workings in order to catch up with our outer world, and for that we have to slow down and then the two kind of meld together in a way that is harmonious for all nations, including like the crystal nation, the mineral nation, the nations of the trees, the flowers, the animals, the microbes, like all of these nations. Like when we're talking about that, like, and we happen to be as human beings as this high being that can move, and I think all of these different things and be much more gross with our forms of communication. I think the trees are in. I don't think I'm pretty confident that I know that the trees and the flowers and all of these other things have consciousness in ways, but it's expressed a little bit differently because it doesn't have this
Yeah.
really magical like being that can move so fluidly and in crazy beautiful ways.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear you talk like that. That's so good. Yeah. So, Mitakuye means we're all related, but not just the two-legged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Four-legged, winged ones. We call the trees the silent standing ones. And then we're related to the stone people, the water people, the winged ones. Yep, we're all related. And scientists are amazed, and we're amazed at them being amazed. What? You finally understand a little bit? It's too bad that's not mainstream,
We'll get there.
because we all share DNA, and the stone people, all of those nations are our elders. And we have been disrespecting our elders for such a long time, you know.
That's
They
just
teach us, they're our teachers.
yeah, that just gave me a whole thing about the whole Bible or the Ten Commandments about like something about your parents or whatever respecting them,
Uh-huh.
and but not understanding that or true the rocks and all of that. So like we've been like respecting our elders, but really not really understanding the true lineage of our elders,
Yeah.
which is like the rocks in the various different nations, as you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd love to do a lot of research. I don't like to use that word so much, but I can't think of another word right now. But I like to do that because,
Inquiry,
I've
inquiry.
inquiry. Yeah, I have a curious mind about the things that I've been taught and the things that I learn. And so, I've seen people, researchers that go up and they put some kind of maybe a stethoscope or something on mountains, and they can hear the mountains actually hum. They can hear heartbeats. As a matter of fact, um, Bear Butte in South Dakota is called the heartbeat of the Lakota Nation. And if you take a satellite picture of it from outer space, you can actually see it beating. Did you know that?
I did not.
Isn't
But
that
this is all
incredible?
stuff that as we continue to get stuff developed, we can create platforms to help get all this out to the world in more
I know.
broad ways. And that's
Yeah.
what we're here to do, to help revive these. They're not, I mean, to say, I mean, a story could be fiction or nonfiction, but to revive these nonfiction stories and to awaken the modern awareness to the true living aspects of all that is around us. And just, yeah.
This is just so fascinating. I love these kinds of conversations so much. I
Yeah.
really,
What are kind of the final takeaways as we kind of wind this down about the story on the covenant between Creator and the four nations and where we are going forth from here in a way that where all nations take responsibility and we're not pointing there's no nation pointing fingers being like, oh well, you're the one, and just taking that radical accountability, which I think is really so crucial in moving forward, is taking full responsibility
mhm,
for everything that we're involved with, and even if like you understand like taking responsibility for the negative things that are maybe occurring in your reality to an extension of you, but not beating yourself up over it, just like acknowledging it. Like when I'm not perfect with plastic and all of those things. I do my best to minimize it.
yeah,
And when I'm throwing stuff into the garbage and like putting it on the street in the garbage, like I'm aware of it. I'm not happy or stoked on it, but I'm also not beating myself up so much about it that it prevents me from being able to do the things that might create the transition or the space for that to be solved or
mhm.
solution or however we want to language it.
Well, you know what I think too. I think that I know that when I was telling the story of the beginning times that I call the creator he, But we actually know that the goddess has returned, you
Oh,
know. And so, yeah, the goddess has returned. She's planted herself firmly in the regions of the four nations. And um, so that's the sacred feminine, this divine goddess. And there are women leaders now who are of the four nations, and they're actually working hard to honor those covenants. I don't know if they have that mindset or that awareness, but they're working hard. I was reading something about it. Um,
I
that
think I know
every
someone.
country that yeah, did you see that?
Yeah,
Every
I've just got some
country.
friends that are doing work with all of these things and the elements, and
Oh,
really
nice.
working on like that
Yeah. So these
energetics,
women are
or
in
and
positions
getting back in touch with
where
the
they can
spiritual
help.
elements of the land,
Yeah.
or the air, the water, all of the
Yeah.
material elements.
Hmm. Did you notice that my hair is short?
I didn't.
That I cut it.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you why. Because in the traditional Lakota way, when somebody loses somebody close
hmm,
and they're grieving heavy, they cut their hair and then they burn it in the sacred fire, or they send it with whoever it was that crossed over. I had to cut my hair because I was grieving so hard and so deep for the things that are happening in the world, that and so many people have started their journey,
yeah.
and some of my uh, close friends have crossed over, and so I cut my hair, and traditional people know that. If they know that somebody's traditional and their hair is short, they go, "Oh, I'm sorry." They won't ask who. So it's up to us if we want to share that. But I wanted to share that
Hmm,
because and I felt the weight of what I was feeling lift. Yeah, it was
hmm.
nice.
Yeah, I've got friends that are really high energetic hairstylists that really are in tune with that. And when they are cutting hair on various different things, they acknowledge
Oh,
that. And like I know people that won't cut their hair except on like very specific
oh,
times and like various different phases within planetary cycles and various different things.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a lot of detail out there, and like I mean, the map's there. We just have to reorient ourselves to the map. We've been, the map is the floor on the above painted in stars, and then the ground right here beneath us, and learning how those two relate and interconnect and reconnecting them, we were looking at the sky and like being in touch with the plants and like you just understand your place. You're not like, what is my purpose? Your purpose is to just be and tend and be in tune with the sky and with the ground and the rhythms and the cycles of what will probably the most comprehensive term would be organic time, whereas now we are kind of in industrial time. 24 hours, and it's like always like every second tick, 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 tick. Whereas if you're in being guided by the sun, it's just like, oh, I see that it's moving, and I'm kind of moving with it, but I'm not having to be like precise second, like mechanical. And it's how
mm,
do we think the mechanical can be useful, but how do we bring the organic into it and create that symbiotic relationship?
mm.
And I think that's what this story, is about. And it's about that coming into the right relationship again.
Yeah, very good, Matt.
Yeah.
So I have to get in touch with the people from the Peace and Dignity Journeys too,
Mm-hmm.
um, to see. I'm imagining that might still happen. I'm hoping, but it's hard to say, for a lot of reasons. But I think that they're so. It's such a powerful run. I can't imagine it not happening. But I want to be in touch with them today. So the Peace and Dignity Journeys. Do you remember what that is?
I do a little bit, and I think, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's also a bringing together of the four nations.
Uh-huh.
And the legend around it is that when the eagle and the condor unite, there will be peace. There will be a great peace on earth. And
Mm-hmm.
so these runners are dedicated to making that happen. And you know, I think I told you they start down in Tierra del Fuego, which is way the most southern tip of Turtle Island,
Mm.
and then all the way up from the coldest area in Alaska, and they come down. So they call them red and blue arrows, and I believe that the red arrows are the east, the blue arrows are the west, because the sun rises, and so that brings red day, and when the sun is setting, you know, that's sort of a blue day. So the sun rises in the east and sets basically in the west. And so that's where you have red day, blue day. So red arrow, blue arrow.
Mm.
There's four groups, and one group starts on the east, the west of the northernmost part, and also the east, and the same down in Tierra del Fuego. And then they start running together like this, and they pick up more runners as they go. And everywhere they go, indigenous people will take them their most sacred instrument for
Wow.
them to carry with them. And so they'll have ceremony everywhere they go. They stop and they have ceremony with tribes that greet them, and then they take one of their sacred objects with them. They do that on all four of these arrows, and then they usually meet in Central America. I know one year they said, and then they use all of these sacred instruments, they carry them. When they stop and they have ceremony, and then they're going to stay the night, they have to put all of the sacred instruments to bed.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
they wrap them up very carefully, and they place them in whatever containers they're going to be in and put them away. And then they can greet the community, and they can share food together and share stories of their time running and like that. So they set up the world's largest indigenous altar. One year it was at the Pyramid of the Sun. This year I believe it was going to be in Ecuador.
Wow.
Anyway, um, yeah, so that's the Peace and Dignity
Where can
journey.
people look up more about that?
Pardon?
Is there a website or something about that?
Yeah, there is. It's called the Peace and Dignity Journeys. So
Beautiful.
just click on that and you can, you know, get yourself in contact.
Cool.
Okay, darling. I'm out
Yeah.
of words.
Yeah. Well, let's just give us can you tell us a little bit about Teoshmi Winimaka and how people can get in touch with it and support? Well, one way you can also support is by being a part of the Peaceful Mother Lover Challenge and making peace on Earth and contributing $1. And yeah, so and
I
30,
have a friend
11% of
who,
that's going to go to Teoshmi Winimaka.
oh, that's so nice. Well, I just happen to have a brochure. Oh, and it has our mission on it. And our mission is to promote alternative housing and energy and support nutritional and educational sovereignty for Indigenous women and their families. And so to that end, we have our current project is on the homestead ranch of Brian Deans in Slim Buttes on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And Slim Buttes is in the southwesternmost corner of South Dakota on the Pine Ridge Reservation, just over the state line from Chadron, Nebraska, basically. And so I would suggest that people go to oldsiri.com or .org and look at everything that we're doing. So I've partnered with Engineers Without Borders and the CSU students from there, and with uh, Social Civil International. That brings us international volunteers when they can travel. And so we've got a great project going. We've got a permaculture convergence that will not happen this year. This will be our fourth year. So we're going to be planning to make everything bigger and better. Um, so we've got that going on. So my part in it is to build what they are calling the Indigenous Wisdom Multicultural Community Center. And we're in the process of building that now. And like everything, we don't know if it's going to be on hold, not the convergence itself, but the build, because there's something going on at different times. And so the students were planning on going up in May, and we'll see how that's going to happen, if it will happen. But it's
Okay.
going to be very, very nice. There'll be classrooms there, a dorm, and an indoor greenhouse. It's going to be wonderful. but that's what we're
Sounds
doing. We
amazing.
go around and we help people um, grow. We're going to sort of launch, if you will, um, a Lakota youth workshops in heavy timber construction and welding, construction welding, and those will be held on site, and they'll actually be doing those things. So what they're learning, they'll be able to see, and they can say, "Hey, I helped build that." And so we're working on raising the funds for that. We want to have 5 scholarships for each one of those workshops, so that we can have all of the materials and supplies we need to give to each student, and they'll also get a stipend for the workshop.
Oh
So it's
wow,
nice. Yeah, I think it's going to be
that's the way it
very.
should be.
It should be absolutely, and we hope that it only grows and grows
Yeah,
and grows.
I want
Yeah.
to help make it grow and be
Oh, thank
involved.
you.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do, grow together.
Okay, we'll do it.
Well, thank you so much for being
Oh,
here with me and taking your precious time to share your stories and just with the world.
oh, thank you, Matt. I love you.
I love you so much. I look forward to getting together and see each other in physical space, and then hopefully not too distant future.
Yeah, I know. And if we just run into each other, we could quickly wrap ourselves in cellophane and masks and hug each other.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been Christinia Eala. I'm going to put down links all up in the comments and stuff so you can check out all the cool, amazing things that we've been talking about. Thank you all so
Yeah,
much for being with me. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
I will. And Matt, my last name has only one L.
Okay.
E-A.
It's
I don't want you to start a trend.
Eala.
Ayala. A
Eala?
Ayala.
Okay,
It's like
Eala.
kind of like Hawaiian eh, the E
Yeah.
is ala.
Okay, Eala.
Ayala. And in the
Eala.
Lakota in the Lakota language, my name translates into Spirit lives, now she cries.
Oh, wow.
And I know that name was given to me by Spirit. It was actually given to me by my father, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was Spirit led, because my when I was born, second born daughter, and my father wanted a son, and when I was born, my mother said, "Oh, don't worry, Chris. We can name her Christina." And he said, "No, no, no. She will not be just another Christina." So he added the I between the N and the A to make it Christinia. And then my family name is Eala. In the Lakota language, though, unbeknownst at the time of my birth, um, Christ is the Lakota word, of course, for Christ or spirit. Christ, spirit. Um, and Nia is the breath of life. And Ayala or Iala is what they say when you're holding a baby that's fussy, and the baby finally quiets down. You put it in your crib and you accidentally bump something and it wakes up and starts crying again. And so that's where now she cries comes from. So Christinia Eala is spirit lives, now she cries.
Wonderful.
All right,
Well,
now I'm really gonna go.
yeah,
I love
wonderful.
you.
Well, thank you so
Okay.
much. I love you so much.
Okay.